All right, so today we're going to talk about some of our expertise in the wedding industry and some of the things that we think that brides and grooms need to keep in mind when they're planning their wedding. Just some important tips and things that we don't think people necessarily think about.
The nitty-gritty.
Yeah, so I think the first thing is talking about like the specific expertise of people on the team. Mine is definitely timelines and communication. So I'm a huge stickler on communication. I like to talk to people like once, twice a day if necessary. I'm not somebody who likes delayed communication just because I know that things change so rapidly that by the time I've talked to you once, I probably need to talk to you again. So I definitely think that communication with your day of coordinator specifically is really, really important so that we can keep track of all the moving parts in the day. What do you think your niche is?
I think mine would be kind of bringing that stress relief while still like staying on point. You know, your wedding or any event, you have a lot of like built up tension and just like little things that you think of that could go wrong. And I'm just here to like, don't worry, like I have your stress. Like I got you, you ain't gotta worry about that. And here's a joke for the road. And there's more where it came from. So I don't know, I feel like I just kind of like try and keep it light and airy so that way you're not stressing at least as much as you cannot stress. But then also just being like very on point and making sure everything is like exactly how you want it. Because I feel like I'm very detail oriented as well.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I know you want it perfect and you're stressing, give me your stress because I'm gonna get you covered, girl or guy. It's both your weddings, you know what I mean? So I feel like that's me.
So I think like the number one thing that I want to clear up and something that I always hear brides say, we have a venue coordinator, so we don't need a day of coordinator. I want to clarify how not true that is. So like your venue coordinator is great, but they're there as a staffer of the venue. So their entire job is based on the venue setup. So like, are your tables and chairs out? The venue's staff function, the venue's equipment, opening and closing the door at the right time, making sure people are in and out, checking for cleanup. Those are the kinds of things that your venue coordinator are doing.
That's great.
However, wedding timelines, they're not doing that for you.
They might have like a general one, but nothing like the master timeline that we have.
Right, and that's more based like around like the venue and what time you're getting there, not the if you're getting your hair and makeup done elsewhere and then coming here, like we get like your whole day kind of situated. And we also connect with like all of your vendors.
Yeah, they're not having those deep conversations with your photographer and your videographer and all
They
that
might
stuff.
chat while they're out there, of course, you know, to get the lineup, but like we are in contact with everybody all the time. So we kind of keep everything rolling versus they're just working their 9 to 5 on your wedding, you know, for the venue.
Yeah, and we're definitely there to handle emergency situations. So like your venue coordinator very well could have 2 or 3 events going on in the same day, just like in different sections of the venue. So if that's happening, they can't be dedicated to you and your emergencies all day. That's just not possible. And a lot of times that does happen, where if you have a big venue, multiple rooms, there's no way they can be there for you the entire day. So you just have to like keep that in mind. The big difference is we work for you. They work for the venue.
Exactly. And a lot of the times there's only one person. There's at least 2 of us for the most part. So, you know, while one of us is with you doing exactly what, you know, you need and want and like just little tasks, you need sewed into your dress, we're here, girl. But like there could be something else going on in the groom suite and it's like one of us needs to be over there too, you know what I mean? And for the most part, the venue coordinator, they're just doing what they need to do for the venue, you know, like they're gonna help you, but they're not gonna go out of their way to make sure you're sewn into your dress or that your mom's on her way, or, you know, like just little itty bitty things that like aren't thought about. And it's
they're not
like,
tracking vendors down when they're late. Exactly. Like they're not calling the photographer because they got the wrong address and they showed up to the wrong, like they're not fixing that for you. That's our job because we're working for you versus they work for the venue. That's like the huge difference. And I really want to clarify that because we've had so many people say, I don't need a day of coordinator, I have a venue coordinator. That's literally not true. That's just 2 totally different things. Now, your venue coordinator is going to do the best that they can possibly do to make your day as special as it is if they're the only coordinator there. But their abilities have limits based on all the responsibilities that they have that are completely outside of you. Just that is something to really keep in mind because I think really people don't know that. They think their venue coordinator is their day of coordinator and it's just not the same thing.
Yep, like you said, they work for the venue. They don't work for you specifically.
Yeah, and the other thing that we wanted to clear up is what your family can and cannot be hired to do.
Oh, gosh, that's a good one.
So there are some things where we want to clarify that like there are like bits and pieces in your wedding where your family can definitely do those jobs. Like we don't have to come in and fill those gaps. But there are certain things in the wedding that it is really, really important that you have professional vendors working.
And I think one of those, just to backtrack off our last
Or you need a day of
point,
coordinator to fill in those gaps.
Yes, what's talking off that point is do not let your family members be your day of coordinator, because here's where it gets tricky is we are here because it's our profession. Your family's there because they're your family, so you're getting mixed emotions there with like family ties, family needs, family wants, and also trying to do a job, you know, for free, but also they want to be part of your wedding. Like they want to be there.
Yeah, that takes them out of the
They
moment.
want to see, right. So they're taking all the stress. It's like you should have someone that is not tied to the family, not tied to anything. Like we are just here to do our jobs and to make your day great. And it's like, you shouldn't have your family doing that. Like your family should just be your family and your guests. If they want to help with like small things, like setting up table decor, taking it down at the end of the night, you know, things like that, go for it. But like, also, you don't want your family calling the shots for you talking to your vendors and things. You know, like that should be strictly business, strictly you talking to us and us to, like, you know, getting all that set up based off what
They
you
can
want.
definitely do things like hair and makeup. If your family is good at hair and makeup and they just want to come in and help you and you don't want to pay somebody to do that, then don't pay somebody to do that. If you have like a baker in the family and they want to make your wedding cake or your wedding cupcakes, they can definitely do that. Now, keep in mind the transportation of those things and like how tricky transportation of a cake can be, but that's something that's totally doable to them. You want to do your own floral arrangements with fake flowers, get your family to help you do those things. DIY your centerpieces, get your family to help you do those things. There are huge chunks where your family can definitely help. The things I would say that your family definitely, other than day of coordination, that your family probably shouldn't be in, catering. Unless your family owns a catering service or a restaurant or something like that.
But just because your grandma makes good banana pudding don't mean she needs to be doing it for the whole wedding.
Yeah, it's stressful on the family. Also, you run the risk of the food arriving late, the food arriving cold, the family not knowing the proper setup to keep the food warm. Who's rotating the food? Like when pans get empty, who's replacing those pans? Who's filling those things up?
Because again, your family wants to be in the moment and actually there for your wedding. Your family doesn't just want to be doing all of this work, you know, so they're going to be trying to balance out having a good time and also, you know, working.
And if you're going to have family do your food, again, that's really important that you have your day of coordinator clued in on that so that we can fill in gaps where we need to fill in gaps if for that situation. Like talking to us ahead of time so we can communicate, hey, this is what we need to keep the food warm. This is where you need to set up. This is where you need to drop stuff off. All that stuff can be communicated and we can fill in those gaps, but you need one or the other. Photography and videography is important. Those are really special moments and you're never gonna get them again. If you don't have a pro, you could lose those moments. And the photos won't be something that you're gonna wanna look at. The video is not gonna be something you wanna play. You want a pro behind the lens of whatever camera is going to be there that day so that you know the quality of the product you're getting. And it's the style that you want because it's not just photos, it's not just video.
And it's not photos with one filter put over top.
Exactly.
Like good editing and stuff. Your little teeth looking yellow, you need them white.
Yeah, there's just stuff that you don't know and that your family with their camera is not gonna know, and you need somebody behind the camera that knows what they're doing.
I will say, if you're going to, I know you're trying to save money because weddings are so expensive, but like if there's anything you're going to like invest in your photos and your video. Like you don't want anyone just walking around recording. Like you want that stuff to look good, you know, in your pictures, you want them to look good angles, and that's another thing, angles and lighting. Just because I can push a button, I can take some pictures, they're not gonna be that good though, you know, like don't cut your budget short on pictures and video. Like make sure that's professional.
Your family can definitely be your officiant.
Right.
If your family wants to go get
Do it.
ordained and they want to be up there and they want to read you your vows, go for that.
applaud you.
I mean, that's totally doable. That's fine.
Yeah.
Make sure that they're appropriately licensed to do that, and like they get what they need, or it's not legal. But they can do that online, and like they can marry you. They can be your officiant. I think you definitely also want to make sure that you have any kind of professional that's going to be This is not a one. This is a half. If you're going to have alcohol and you're going to have a bar, you need a licensed and insured bartender. Period. Even if it's a bring your own alcohol situation to the venue, To control the alcohol and control the situation, you need a licensed and insured bartender. Don't just let anybody grab a beer from the cooler and call it a night. Because unless you have wedding insurance, unless you have some kind of policy to cover any damage that gets done, or any kind of alcohol bottles that are left around, or anything, any injuries that could happen, these now are on you if your licensed and insured bartender isn't there. And people don't think about that, but if your guests are getting drunk and they're getting in their car and they're leaving, if there's a licensed and insured bartender, they should have known when to cut those people off. Yep. If you had no controls in place, that comes on you. And so that's just a really important thing to think about when you're managing those things.
And that's actually another talking point too, is if you find your venue, go on their website, speak with whoever you're speaking with to get booked, but like look at all of the details. Like a lot of their websites have so much information, but some venues don't even allow you to bring in outside beer. Like you have to get what they have,
yeah, definitely
and
check.
You have to use who they have because that's like
it
a
all
liability.
depends on their liquor license.
Exactly.
So yeah, definitely check and make sure you know.
Like check, because that would also suck. You have all these people showing up with alcohol, and it's like, well, leave it in your car because you can't, So definitely check at that stuff, and like all of the insurances and stuff. Even like getting rental insurance and stuff for like where you're having your wedding, because like someone falls into the wall and busts a hole in it, that's on you. But unless you have like your insurance, so like that's another thing don't skip on, is your insurances.
Or make sure that all of your vendors are licensed and insured to cover their part.
Yeah.
The other thing that we were going to talk about is reasonable vendor expectations and communication. If you don't communicate with any of your vendors, you can't expect a quality product. Like there is communication that has to happen before we ever walk in on the wedding day. If that communication doesn't happen, you can't expect a solid timeline. Like we are not going to know how the day is going to run.
Right.
You can't expect your photographer to know your set, like your shot list. They don't know because there was no communication. There was no reference photos. There was no, hey, this is what I want. They don't know that.
Yeah, it's all like help us help you.
Exactly.
Like you need to give us what you want. You need to be honest. Don't beat around the bush. 100%. This is your wedding day. You let us know what you want, and we'll let you know if it's possible or not possible, and do what we can to make it possible if it's not. And you just need to be 100% open, 100% honest, and like 100% on top of your communication game.
But definitely also keep in mind your vendor's communication with you. If your vendor is not communicating with you properly, that's a red flag. Like if they're not calling you and asking you questions, if they're not saying, hey, I need this information from you, that's a problem.
Like you want to hear from your vendors all the time because you want to make sure everything's in line.
At least, especially be hearing from them 30 to 60 days before the wedding. Yeah. Like that's when planning is going crazy, and I want to hear from all of my vendors at that point, what's the game plan for the day? Yeah. If I don't hear anything, that's a huge problem. If I can't get a hold of you. Now here's reasonable expectation though. Your vendors are busy. It's wedding season. We are busy. Give us 24 to 72 business hours to get back to you because we work weekends. And that sometimes means we need a Monday off. Like we just worked Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I need a Monday.
12 hours a day.
Yeah, we're
there
at
8 a.m. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're working
more than
12 to
12.
15.
Right. A lot of times we get there 8 a.m. We're not leaving until midnight.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah, so by the time Monday comes around, we can't answer the emails. Like we just can't. So you have to think about it from that perspective. Like we know that communication is important, and especially on this team, you're gonna get quality and quick communication.
There's several of us.
But just keep that in mind. Like for vendors that are a single person team, we just can't talk to you all the time. Like we will get back to you, and we should get back to you quickly. But it might not be. Yeah. Yeah. Just and check. Do like a vibe check on people. Like, do you feel okay about the situation?
Right.
Like, do you think the communication is lacking because they're busy, or do you think the communication is lacking because they're not a quality vendor?
Right. Like after, I feel like your first call, it's like anyone, like your first initial meeting with someone, like you feel like you have like the vibe, but like especially like off that call, how do they sound if you're meeting them in person? What's their body language like? Do they look like they don't know what they're doing? They just brushing that off? Like, get that vibe, and like after the second, third time. And here's another thing: if your whoever you're hiring, catering, whatever, if they're not meeting your expectations, it's not too late. Like if you've just hired them and a month later you're like they're just not really reaching out, or like completely neglecting, get rid of them. Don't have someone else coming in here whatever.
It's okay to switch.
It's
okay to
not
say
too
this
late to do
isn't working and I need to, but also read your contract. Because it's not reasonable to say, I've decided I'm just gonna switch. I want my money back. If you paid a non-refundable retainer, you're not getting a refund. It's okay to back out, but you can't expect them to give the refund.
Right.
It just doesn't happen. It's because they lost that date. They can't book it again, or they've already turned down work to keep your booking. So you don't get the retainer back.
Yeah.
But you're okay to back out. So we hope all of this information was super helpful for you guys. It makes us feel better to let you guys know this stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of nitty-gritty that goes into weddings and any events, and it's not talked about hardly at all. And we're here to answer all those questions and to give you all that information. So if you want more, see you in the next video.
Yeah, keep watching, see you in the next video. And if you have any specific questions that you'd like us to answer in the future, feel free to leave them in the comment section or email them to us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye. Hey guys, if you like what you saw, then hit the like button down here, notifications over here, and subscribe. Thank you. Bye.